Hey all, hello and welcome, Tony Bing here. So we have another Cosmic Trial guide video for Marvel Heroes Omega. This particular one will cover Psylocke. Now what we'll do is we'll look at the skills and talents I'm using, we'll then do the Cosmic Trial gameplay, and then we'll show off the gear. Now in relation to the actual gear, I have just recently hit level 60 on her, so we won't be using a legendary or any special boss artifacts or anything like that. We'll purely be using at most super heroic gear, so if you're a new player, this particular video and guide will hopefully help you get through the Cosmic Trial without having to spend all that extra time gearing up. But first up, let's have a look at the skills and talents we would use. So with the skills we'll be using here, there'll largely be a mix of dots and range skills, and our psychic clones as well are pretty important. The first skill we look at is Psionic Vortex. This is great because it pulls all the enemies together. It acts as a vortex, as the name would suggest. It also makes the enemy invulnerable, and you've got the damage packet on it as well. No dot on this one, it is just flat damage. Next skill we have is Psionic Assaults. Once all the enemies are pulled together, you then cast this dot on them and it will slow them and weaken them. We follow this up with Psionic Projections. This is where you bring in your summons. Now when you use Psionic Projection, you follow up with Psionic Bow and your projections will actually cast this. They will also cast Psycho Blast as well, which is pretty great, and enemies who are both vulnerable and weakened, which they will be because of the first two skills we use, will be dealt double damage and stunned for 3 seconds. That's really important and helps out a ton. Now once we've stunned the enemies and we've put down all these different layers on them, we then follow it up with Fallen Lotus Strike for another dot, and we use this after the stun because this is a melee move. We're getting in close, we want the enemy to be stunned, and then we'll dash back out again. And then finishing up, we have the signature, which is a refill butterfly. So this is nice enough. Do try and use it on a single enemy, because otherwise they can fly about the screen and you won't be doing as much damage, so just bear that in mind. But next up, let's have a look at the talents we would use. The first talent we look at here is a good defensive one. It's Protected Mind, so you have a 5% damage resistance plus an additional 5% against mental attacks, which I don't believe any enemies in the trial do use mental attacks, but the initial 5% is certainly useful. You also apply Guarded to yourself as well. Now Guarded gives you 10% base health and 1% of max health regenerated per second, so that's pretty nice. We then have Enhanced Barrier, so this adds a huge 360 or 365 even max psionic barrier there, and your psionic barrier, when it's active, you gain a 50% damage reduction, so that really is quite important. We then have a skill that starts to buff these projections. Now this particular one, you can summon an additional projection, so that pulls us up to 3, and then they'll also fire off the Psionic Bow and Psionic Blast as well, so that's very important there. We then have Psy Katana, so your mental powers will do 10% extra damage, and it adds a dot to your skills as well for 6 seconds. And finishing up, we have another projection skill. So with this one, when we use Psionic Projection, we'll call in all of our projections, and due to this providing us an additional one as well, it means we'll call in 4 in total. So if you have all them firing off all your skills, you could be doing a whole lot of damage from it without putting yourself in any kind of danger. So what we'll do now anyway is we'll run through the Cosmic Trial. Once that's complete, as always, we'll show off the gear we've used to pass it as well.
I can't do that. Oh!
So many ways to hurt you.
Was that expensive? I'll go down fighting.
The Mandarin is invincible. This cannot be.
I'm impressed, but you still lost. Next. I can't do that. I can't do that. do that.
This is how it ends. So be it.
And there we go. Now that was definitely one of the easier Cosmic Trial run-throughs that I've actually done. If we bring up the gear, you can see nothing special here. We actually have for our slot 4, which would be the boots, simply heroic gear. We don't even have super heroic yet, and despite that we're able to pass that trial there with relative ease. So as always, hope the video was useful. Any questions feel free to ask, and I'll see you all again soon.